Hey guys, Cameron for the Vampire Diaries, Season 7, Episode 17, I Went to the Woods, and as you guys could probably imagine, I wasn't looking forward to this episode really that much at all. You guys know the season really hasn't been doing much of anything for me. It seems like it was going somewhere with a time jump. It didn't really do anything. Last week, I didn't know where the hell we were headed, because last week it just seemed like we were back to where we were, and this episode was definitely better, I'll say that, but only because this episode was actually focused. Last week's episode focused on something I didn't give a shit about. It focused on Mary Louise and Nora, and you guys know I don't give a shit about their characters. Which I'm also glad that we didn't really hear about them in this episode, because I don't really want to ever hear about them again. But this episode I did think was an improvement, mainly because of Paul Wesley's performance. I liked that. I liked the main stuff going on this episode. Don't get me wrong, there still was stuff I was not enjoying. This does not mean the season's better. What it seems like keeps happening is that we have some really mediocre episodes, and then all of a sudden we just have this random gem that seems like it's really going to pick things up, and then we go back to slowing down the season, and it really seems like that's just going to be the pattern for this, and I really hope there's a way to fix the show, but at this point I don't really know. But let's just get in this episode. I do really want to talk about it, and this is the reason why I keep watching the show, because of episodes like this. And you know, the show can be great if they just focus on what they want to focus on, not focus on these a million other plot points that aren't going anywhere. So let's just get to this episode. I love the way this episode starts. I thought this episode had really powerful imagery. It kind of reminded me of Hell is Other People a little bit. If you guys remember my favorite episode of the season, Hell is Other People, the one with Damon where he's trapped in the Phoenix Stone. It very much reminded me of this episode with what was going on with Stefan, because as we know, Stefan's now in the Phoenix Stone. We see him, and he's laying in the middle of the road of an aftermath of an accident. He can hear people burning inside of a school bus. He tries his hardest to break open the door. He finally breaks the door open, begins saving each person on it one by one. The police arrive, and Stefan is being tended by an EMT. She asks his name, and he says he doesn't remember. She finds a nasty gash on his carotid artery, and he sees a dead body roll by, and the EMT says that he is a hero. Suddenly, he remembers his name is Stefan Salvatore. She asks him if he knows where he is, and he says, yes, I'm in hell. And right away we can tell that it's not actually Stefan that's in hell, it's his soul that's in hell, because as we know, his soul is what's trapped, and his body's still there, but obviously is now stuck in someone else, someone else's soul. We don't know who it is, though. So, Damon and Valerie are dealing with the aftermath of the Phoenix Stone being destroyed, and I will admit, I did actually see some depth with Valerie and Stefan. Like, you did see Valerie's genuine concern for Stefan. While I'm not a huge fan of Stefan and Valerie's relationship, and I do think it's a bit silly, that was just what they've done with it, I do think it worked in this episode. I saw Valerie genuinely concerned, I saw her want to help Stefan, and I believe that these two were together, and it definitely is better than the way they found Stefan and Caroline, because as you guys know, I didn't really ever feel they were that much of a couple, really. I mean, they kind of were, but then they kind of weren't. That whole relationship didn't really work. Nora and Mary Louise being gone and Stefan being trapped inside of it. And Valerie says they didn't know that Stefan had been stabbed, but Damon is short with her. He says that they should get out of there, but Valerie says she's not going anywhere with him because it's all his fault, and she doesn't trust Damon because of that, because she feels that it is his fault. And Valerie has lost hope, but Damon is still holding out hope that he can bring his brother back. He says he's not ready to wallow in self-loathing pity. He tells her to try to think his way. He asks her to do a locator spell to help him find Raina, and Valerie walks away from him. She says she will do what he says, but without him, and she also cloaks herself, because obviously she doesn't want Damon's help. Damon, I don't think she thinks is part of the reason this is going on, but she does know that Damon could probably mess some things up, and she really doesn't trust him, so she decides to cloak herself. Meanwhile, Stefan relieves being stabbed at the Phoenix Stone, and the EMT thinks he's going crazy. The sheriff walks over to him, asks if his name is Marty. Stefan humors the chef after being asked to walk a straight line, and I'm like, who's Marty? Because obviously, we know this isn't Stefan, but, his soul's in the Phoenix Stone. Marty is who's occupied his body, we can tell. So, Raina calls Matt for help, but he refused. She tells him that he doesn't understand all the souls in the Phoenix Stone have escaped and is now wandering the world. And here's the thing with Matt that is just not working for me. We know that Matt has this personal grudge against Stefan for what happened with Penny, or something that happened with her, and that Penny was killed, I believe, by Stefan or something like that. But we didn't see his personal pain. We don't see what Matt is really going through. So right now, Matt's just coming across as a douchebag. He's really not coming across as someone that has a genuine reason for going after Stefan. Yes, we've heard him say that, but we haven't really seen any emotion. We didn't actually see the event play out. So unfortunately, because I didn't see it, I can't really relate, I can't really feel for Matt at all. And in fact, in this situation, I just think he's being a douchebag. And I know that's obviously not what we're supposed to think, because we're supposed to feel for Matt, we're supposed to understand what he's going through. But for me, it's not really doing much of anything, because again, we didn't see the event play out on screen. And because of that, right now, Matt's just coming across as a dick, and it's just not really working. And that's the one thing that they really aren't doing well. I want to see them tie up some of those loose ends, and I think they will, but they didn't do any of that in this episode. There were no flashbacks whatsoever, which was fine. We didn't need the Valerie flashbacks last season, but last episode, but those Valerie 7 flashbacks we had last episode could have easily been the Matt flashbacks that we actually do need, so we can feel with Matt, and we do feel his pain, because right now, like I said, I think he's just coming across as a bit of a dick. So that's really how I see it, at least. Maybe you guys see it differently, but that's how I see it. Basically, we see that, we see, she tells him that he doesn't understand all the souls and being stolen of escape and is now wandering the world. Valerie surprises her with a knife to her neck and asks her to elaborate, and you can tell that Valerie's going to do whatever she can to get Stefan back, and that's, like I said, one of my favorite parts of this episode, is seeing Valerie's genuine concern. Damon comes up on what looks like his brother, but his brother doesn't seem to recognize him at first, or remember how he ended up wandering the streets, and I will say, Paul Wesley, without a doubt, was the best thing about this episode, because, don't get me wrong, Paul Wesley's very good as Stefan, he does a very good job, but we've always known him to play this really great dark evil side of Stefan. He just gets it down perfectly. He doesn't get to do a lot, but when he does it, he is badass, and this was a perfect example of that. I love seeing the side of Stefan. I love it. In general, I love when the characters turn their humanity off, because it gets them to play another side that we haven't seen before, and I thought it was really cool the way they did it here, and that was something I really enjoyed, that they did. But for me, the thing that works the most is just Paul Wesley really killed it. We really get to play this side that we haven't seen before, and I definitely really enjoyed that, and it worked very well here, definitely. And if we're gonna have a couple episodes of Stefan like this, I'm perfectly fine with that. Just like, you know, what they did with Elena, what they did with Caroline, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, we've seen Stefan evil before. Hell, Stefan was the villain in Season 3, if you remember, kind of. For, like, the first half of Season 3, he was the villain. And then we remember when he was Silas. I mean, he does very good at playing that evil, dark side, and he did that very well in this episode. So he looks into the mirror. His facial features are completely different, and they can tell right away that this is just not Stefan. And Ray tells Valerie that Stefan can be anywhere and anyone, and Marty or Stefan is resisting arrest and manages to escape. However, he is handcuffed. He stumbles momentarily, but gets back up and takes off, and again, you can tell that definitely this guy is not good. You can definitely tell that there's something about him that's just not good. So back in Texas, there are reports of the accident all over the TV, where Alaric is yelling at Matt for bringing them back into the mess. Alaric tells Matt that he and Caroline are supposed to get married, and we find out that they're actually engaged, which I don't think is something that we knew. We knew that Alaric and Caroline were together, but we didn't know that they were engaged, which is interesting, definitely. And again, you do see the genuine concern that Alaric has, and Matt says that Caroline was just bait, and he sent some people his way. He hangs up on Alaric, who answers the door to see Valerie and a knocked out Raina, and obviously Alaric wants to save Caroline and the babies. You know, he obviously wants to do that. But Matt's saying, oh, no, she just bait. Again, Matt is just being a douchebag. I don't know where this has come from, but Matt is just being an asshole all of a sudden. And, you know, again, if we would just gotten some context and maybe get some scenes as to why Matt is acting this way, then I'd be fine. We do know why Matt is acting this way. That's not the problem. The problem is there's really nothing else to it except Matt just acting like a douchebag. So Valerie explains the situation to Alaric, and he agrees to help. Raina wants to hunt all the souls down, however, but Valerie and Alaric want to find Stefan, and Raina says it's some of the most dangerous vampires, and meanwhile, Damon is trying to get Stefan to remember who he is. He hands him the diary to try to jog his memory. The man in Stefan's body notices that he's not himself. Instead of coming clean, though, he just tells Damon that he is famished, and obviously, Damon doesn't know that Stefan is actually Marty, and that Marty isn't, you know, actually who Stefan, you know, this is someone else, and the real Stefan is stuck in Marty's body, is struggling to find a place to hide, still handcuffed. He reaches what looks like an abandoned cabin and begins looking for ways to get out of the cuffs. This was really cool. I really like the way this was done, because it's something I don't think they've done before, is actually show what happens to the, you know, the regular soul, you know, when they're in their body. He leaves the cabin and moves to the shed, where he finds a vice tool to free himself. It turns out to be much more painful than he thought, and you really saw that pain he was going through. I mean, Paul Wesley, like I said, really acted the hell out of those scenes. You definitely felt that pain and you can just tell that Raina is really putting him through hell physically and emotionally and mentally, just all aspects of hell. That is exactly what he's going through. So Damon and Stefan are having a meal. However, Damon notices that Stefan is not himself. He's feeding on human flesh, and Damon excuses himself and calls Alaric. He asks him who when he realized that Joe wasn't Joe. Because if you remember, there was a time when we thought Joe was back and it wasn't Joe. And Alaric tells Damon that it's not actually Stefan in his body. He also reveals that if the real Stefan is in a human body, he has just a couple of days to live. And the same fate that the vampires who inhabited Joe's body had. So obviously, they have a good reason to freak out because we know that Stefan, the body that he's in, he could end up dying very soon. And that really, I thought, was very interesting. This brings up a really interesting plot point, and if the rest of the season takes place in only a few days, that could be very interesting, but we'll have to see what happens with that. I'm going to say right now, it's probably going to get solved very quickly. Stefan looks himself in a mirror. All he can see staring back is Marty. He creates a makeshift cast for his hand out of duct tape, tries to get a phone to work in the cabin. However, he has no luck. He wanders outside, finds a generator, then cranks it up. He gets the TV to work and sees that Marty is a wanted man, and obviously, Stefan didn't really know much about Marty, so you can tell that he's trying to figure out more about him, and Stefan actually has to worry about the cold and his substance abuse, which is something that he usually doesn't have to worry about. And I like that they really went into this because, Stefan is used to being a vampire and having the daylight rings and, having just, warm skin and not really feeling anything because he's a vampire. But now that he's in a human body, he actually has to deal with these things. And you can tell that it really is a real detriment to who he is and really just he isn't used to. And I like seeing those scenes, definitely. Very good stuff there. And really powerful, definitely. So Valerie and Alaric are listening to the broadcast at his house. Raina asks them to turn it down. Valerie asks Alaric for a photo of Stefan so that she can completely complete a low care spell. She grabs hold of Raina's head, and Raina can see what Stefan has gone through. They link the tattoo that Raina saw on his hand to Marty and realize who they need, and Alaric alerts Damon, and Damon says he will be there as long as his passenger cooperates. Stefan talks to himself about the irony of being trapped in the body of an addict. While he tries to get the car started, he finally does breathe a sigh of triumph. Meanwhile, in the car ride, Damon reveals that he knows the man in his brother's body is not Stefan. Despite the news, the man mocks Damon by telling him that his brother really hates him. The man refuses to give up the body, obviously, because he wants to have this, body where he's immortal, and he tells Damon that when it is all over, they should get together, have some fun before disappearing out of the car, and obviously, this is not Stefan. You can definitely tell this is definitely not Stefan, and this is a real problem, obviously, because it's not Stefan, and this is something that definitely they need to deal with. I did really love the scene where Damon's like, who are you? He's like, are you Elvis? Because that would explain your hair. I thought that was just a really great scene. I definitely really love that. The banter between them, I really thought was funny, but it is a serious situation, obviously, because we know that Stefan could die within a few days if they don't save him. So Damon calls Alaric. You can't understand how he lost him, and they learn that Stefan's body is going to Memphis, and Raina recognizes the clue. Raina says that he should be staked and killed. However, when Valerie and Alaric refuse, Raina breaks out. She snaps Valerie's neck, and Alaric tries to stop her by getting to his dart gun. However, he wuzzes out and lets her go. The real Stefan runs into a woman on the road and asks to use her phone. However, when she reaches for it, she hears a report, fights Stefan off before driving away. Stefan's on the floor, sees that the weather is turning, and Damon has to compel a sheriff into thinking that he's Matt. He's briefed on the weather situation and Marty's location, and obviously you can tell the real Stefan is trying to get to, to Stefan's body, because obviously he's in a real bad situation. So the sheriff intends on letting the weather do its job. Stefan is struggling to stay warm, hallucinates about his brother saving him. Really powerful scene, because again, he's not used to having to deal with these cold temperatures. He's used to just, naturally having a warm body, and he can't have that here. And Stefan says that he's there, then he is saved, and he owes him one. However, if he is a hallucination, he's in his final stages and really screwed, and he really is fucked, because if he's having hallucinations, that's one of the final signs that this could be the end. And he looks away, and when he turns back, Damon is gone. Stefan opens the door, falls out weak and suffering. He's now laying on the road at the driver's side door of the old truck he hotwired, and the temperature is dropping fast. There is a foot of snow in the forecast, and the woman who let Stefan on the road claims to have been attacked, which obviously that's a real problem. So Damon overhears her, begins questioning her. She gives him the exact location. Damon leads the police in the opposite direction. The woman tells Damon that to let her know if they find her phone, and he realizes that it must be nearby. He calls his brother, tells him to get up and keep moving. Stefan says he can't feel his limbs, and he isn't sure if it's withdrawal or if he's freezing to death, because he knows he's in an addict's body, and he logically, doesn't do drugs and things like that, and because he's not doing drugs, could he just be going through withdrawal? But he also could be freezing to death, and Damon says this is not the way Stefan is going to die. He's going to make sure that he does live. However, Stefan just tells Damon that the entire mess is his fault, which it many ways is. Damon was the one that slept for, 3 years, and they had to wake him up, and then Damon wanted to, remove the mark and everything. That's what got them into this whole situation. It really is Damon's fault, and again, I don't want these two brothers to be feuding all the time. I want them to kind of come to a head, and they've been split all season. I kind of just don't want them to be split up. You can only do that for so long, but it is kind of working here. Stefan says his instincts aren't always to save someone. I really love this scene because this really is more of what I want between Stefan and Damon, just the way we're getting this. Stefan then says his instincts are always to save someone. He asks Damon what his instincts are. Damon admits to being selfish, angry, and impatient. He says before he met Elena, he didn't know how to make the right decision, and it's definitely not Elena. And that's the truth. I mean, every decision that Damon has made this season, he's blamed on, oh, Elena's gone. But really, we remember in season 1, he was a corrupted vampire. He was evil. He, he slit people's throats, he bit people's necks. I mean, he did some really terrible shit, as we remember, and, he really was a killer, and he urged Stefan to get up and come kick his ass if he's upset. Stefan asks him if he wants to know what it's all so hard, and Stefan says eventually he's not going to be able to go on. He says that when that happens, he doesn't believe that Damon will be there, and it's really sad, because Stefan doesn't feel that Damon's gonna be there for him. He feels like Damon's gonna do his own thing, because he doesn't give a shit about him, which we know that Damon does, in fact, care about Stefan, but Stefan just has this, it just has this mentality that Damon doesn't give a shit about him, and it is good to think about, because in many ways, yeah, that is kind of what got them there. I mean, even though Damon was trying to do a good thing for Stefan, in many ways, it just made things worse, because Stefan even says, for 3 years, there was no one, there was no crime or anything, and then, of course, when Damon woke up, that's when everything started up again. He doesn't really know why it's happening, and obviously, he's really upset about it. So, yes, he is kind of blaming Damon for it, but I think it is justified why he's blaming him for it, definitely. So, Alaric and Valerie are weighing the storm outside a restaurant. Valerie accuses Alaric of being the victor if Stefan dies. Valerie says she never fooled herself into thinking what she had with Stefan would last. However, Alaric says he proposed to Caroline. She said yes for the children. Valerie says she's hoping Alaric and Caroline can make it together, and again, it's a good scene. I just don't really believe Alaric and Caroline would be together. I just don't really believe it. To me, it seems like he likes her, but I don't really know if she likes him. Damon and his brother are continuing the back and forth conversation as Stefan walks in the cold. They reminisce on a game of hide and seek. Stefan collapses after telling his brother that he's never going to find him. Damon pulls up, picks his brother up. Very hard scene to watch. Definitely just him falling in the snow. Just really sad. Stefan wakes up in the car with his brother. Damon is finding it hard to believe that Marty is his brother. Damon hands over 2 donuts to Stefan, who chows down on them. Stefan says that they still aren't forgiven. He begins to choke up blood. Damon tells Stefan that Marty's body won't make it, and obviously, it's a very bad situation, because if, something bad happens to Marty's body, then they're shit out of luck, pretty much. So meanwhile, Valerie's senses trigger her to figure out that Stefan's body is at a frat party, which, obviously that's a good clue, because now they know he's there. That's one step closer to what they need. Alaric then revisits Raina's club about the vampires who was headed to Memphis, and he's incredibly dangerous, and obviously we don't know who this vampire is or what's going to happen there, but that's how the episode ends. And overall, guys, like I said, pretty solid episode. I definitely really enjoyed it. This episode mainly focused on Damon and Stefan. That's the thing. When we focus on the 2 central characters, then the show is really good. When we focus on stuff that doesn't matter, like Mary Louise and Nora, then I don't care as much. And this episode I thought was a lot more powerful. You understand why Stefan and Damon are going back and forth. I mean, Stefan and Damon, they've been through crossroads all season, as we know. Not just for this time jump, but in general, they've really been through a lot of problems. I mean, Damon keeps thinking that he is better off, that Stefan is better off without him. And I like that Stefan's telling him, no, I need you. I need you to be here for me. I know that you don't want to, but I need you to be here. And Stefan, Damon, is just being a douchebag. He doesn't really understand it. And I like that Damon, I think is kind of starting to come to his senses that he does need to help his brother. And I definitely like seeing that. I like they're making progress. But obviously, Marty's body, I mean, this is a very dangerous situation, because if Marty's body gives out, then there's kind of shit out of luck. And we don't really know what they're going to do with Marty and Stefan's body, which I do like the way this is being handled. I think it's a very interesting situation. What's going to happen there. Like I said, my main problem with this episode was Matt. I really do not like the way they're portraying Matt. They're portraying him as a douchebag. They're portraying him as not giving a shit, and he needs to give a shit. He really has reasons to. He needs to, he needs to, tell them that what's going on. We need to see more of what, we need to see more of what he dealt with. That's really my thing. We need to see more of what Matt went through. Then we'll know. Then I can actually, feel sympathy for him. Because right now, I feel no sympathy for the guy whatsoever. I think he's just coming across as being a douchebag, and if they were to show flashbacks, then that would really help me, sympathize with his character more. Alaric and Caroline, is this wedding really going to happen? We'll have to see. I mean, Caroline, Matt thinks is being used as bait, but is she really being used as bait? We don't really know. We'll have to see what's going on there. We didn't see Enzo in this episode, but it looks like next week's episode focuses on mainly Bonnie and Enzo, which I do like because that's something that we definitely need. We haven't had a lot of chemistry between Bonnie and Enzo. Next week is definitely the week to do it because then we'll see why these two are together. We'll see why they should be together, and that will convince me that this is working. Because right now, I'm still not 100% sure if this time jump is working. I want to hope it's working, but let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I definitely thought this was a much better episode than last week's. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I do have this fear that, again, they're just going to pull back the rug, and it's going to be really bad. I mean, that just seems to be happening. We get a really good episode, then, nope, everything bad from that episode, everything bad is back. All the errors I've had this season, they're back, and they're focusing on a bunch of things that don't matter. But now that Mary Louise and Nora are gone, I kind of do have some more hope that maybe things will be better. But the whole Enzo stuff, I still don't care about that. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys next year, which will be for the originals, which, again, I know is going to be other Vampire Diaries better than every week, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.